power over that thing that you've been dealing with. Until then, there's a thorn in your flesh. It's causing you pain. It's hindering your walk with God. It's hurting you. Let's look at Joshua chapter 23. Joshua chapter 23 talks about the thorns as well. Joshua chapter 23, I'm going to look at verse 10. It says, 1 man of you shall chase 1,000. For the Lord your God, he is he that fighteth for you, as he hath promised you. Take good heed, therefore, unto yourselves, that you love the Lord your God. Else, if you do in any wise go back in Joshua 23 and 12, and cleave unto the remnant of these nations, even these that remain among you, and shall make marriages with them, and go in unto them, and they to you, know for certainty, that the Lord your God will no more drive out any of these nations from before you, but they shall be snares and traps unto you, and scourges in your sides, and thorns in your eyes, until you perish from off this good land which the Lord your God hath given you. God told him, if you heed my word, if you do what I command you to do, he said, nobody's going to be able to stand before you. He said, I will give you power to chase 1,000, and I will give power to 2 of you to chase 10,000. In that unity, you have that much more strength. But if you choose to marry, if you choose to go off and be a part of the world and do the things in the world, and you cleave to them, and you begin to make covenants with them, in Joshua 23 and 10 through 13, if you begin to cleave unto them, you begin to make marriages with them, you begin to tap into the foreign nations, he said, I'm going to let them be snares to you. I told you, it's temptations. When he gives you a chance, he gives you a chance to consecrate your life to him. Give yourself to him. He said in Joshua 23, he tells us that if you don't take responsibility and keep that covenant, and you go out and you marry strange wives, go out and marry strange husbands, people that you get unequally yoked with, you go out there and you choose to make leagues with the nations, become worldly and partner up with the world. He said, I'm going to let them be snares to you. I'm going to let them be traps to you. Scourges in your side. That's a whip. And then he said, not only that, but thorns in your eyes. That's bad, isn't it? Imagine having thorns in your eyes. You're stuck in the eyes with thorns. But Paul said he had that thorn in his flesh because God wanted to keep him humble. God wanted to keep him where he needed to be. I said, Lord, let me humble myself. Let me humble myself because I don't really want to get humbled by God, not on a continual basis. I'd rather bring myself down and get on my face and fast and do everything I have to do to get myself humble than to have God to throw thorns in my side to keep me humble. I'm always building myself up, talking about what God have done, and I'm taking God's glory, and basically full of pride. God says when you're full of pride, he'll let you get a thorn in your flesh. But that's not the only reason. The devil also does it. So why do these thorns come into our flesh? Number one, the devil already desires to put thorns in your flesh. He's seeking their opportunity to attack you. He's always seeking opportunity to join himself with you, cause you trouble, cause you turmoil, cause you pain. He's always seeking for an opportunity to come in and do damage to us. It's just his natural desire. The Bible tells us in the book of John, chapter 10, verse 10, he says that the thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and destroy. He already wants to bring thorns into your life. Things that will spark up to hurt you. Things that will spring up to destroy you. Things that will come into your life to be a hindrance to you, that will cause you to stumble, that will cause you to fall short of the glory of God, that will cause you to trip. God is telling us, he shows us that the devil's always trying to do that. Why do these things come? And the devil is very successful at folks that are not protected by God. If you're not protected, not under the blood, You can't take these promises of God's protection and God's provision and apply them to your life. You have to be under God's covering, under God's protection, under God's blessing if you are going to say, God's going to protect me from these thorns of the flesh. Why else do these thorns come to us? These thorns come because we self-inflict them upon ourselves sometimes. We put ourselves in a situation where the enemy comes in to destroy. The enemy comes in to damage us. You see what I'm saying? Self-inflicted. So we got devil-inflicted and we got self-inflicted. Oh, why did I get wrapped up, with that man? I knew I should have never got wrapped up with him. Oh, why did I go off and do this or go off and do that and all these other kinds of things? Those are self-inflicted thorns. That's what Joshua did in the book of Joshua. He went off to the people, and the people came and made a covenant with them. God said, don't make any covenant with any of the people of the land. But they did anyways. They went off with the people of the land, and they made a covenant with those people. And making a covenant, self-infliction. Open up the door for them just to go in and do damage to one another. Israel did it. Jacob, when he took his people to the king of Shechem, they made a little agreement with the folks over there. Had one of his daughters raped, and then his sons went in there and took over the whole kingdom and destroyed everything, killed everybody in the land. And he said, woe is me. Woe is me. That's what Jacob said. Woe is me. Why? Self-inflicted pain. You shouldn't put yourself with anybody or anything that you know is going to hurt you. You know later on down the road is going to do destruction to you. Bible says don't go out and make leagues. Don't go out and make friends that you know are going to be against you and that are going to hurt you and that are going to damage you and damage your relationship with God. You shouldn't do it. If your friend's telling you that you got to choose between them and God, then you ought to say, well, the choice was already made. I've already chose God. I've already chosen. I've already chose whose side I'm on. Because if you don't, all you're setting yourself up is for self-inflicted pain later on down the road. Why else do these thorns come? Finally, God chooses to humble us. We read the scripture in 2 Corinthians chapter 12. I want to read it again. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 7. Paul said, and lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan to beat me, to whip me down. He said, I was on my way up. I was just being exalted. Every time I looked around, I was having another revelation. Every time I looked around, another miracle was going out. Every time I looked around, I was talking about how great I was, how powerful I've become, and how prestigious I am, and how many accolades I have, and how many great things I've accomplished. And God said, while you were exalting yourself, he said, here comes the thorn, because he has to keep us humble so that we can make it in the kingdom. No pride is going to enter into God's kingdom. No flesh is going to glory in his presence. Right. Jeremiah 9:23 tells us, no flesh is going to glory in God's presence. So you have to come before God with a mind that, hey, I am only what I am by the grace of Jesus. I am only what I am because of his mercy and because of his blessings. And I'm humble enough to keep myself with a sober mind to realize that I'm nothing but 6 foot of man, or 6 foot of woman, or 5 foot of woman. I'm humble enough to realize who I am, what my place is, and that without God, I am nothing. See that? Why do these things come? Devil brings them, you bring them, and then if you don't do it and you have pride in your life, God himself will do it. Now the problem, one of the big things is we don't really realize that we have thorns in our flesh until we go to try to do something that we used to be able to do and we can't do it anymore. You realize, when do you realize that you have these thorns? You realize that you have a thorn in your life when you don't have as much freedom as you used to have. You know, when you used to be able to go